So I'm trying to get my deep, low voice today because we'll be talking about dating games.
I should post this on Valentine's Day.
However,
Wow.
today on Eternally Bored, we are here again. Once again, our lovely guest is Elisa Matthews, and we are with our host, as always, Trey Chambers, and on the sultry microphone, none other than Charles Washington.
And you might hear our mascot, Tuxedo. So if you hear some whining, it's probably Tuxedo.
All right. Anyways, back to normal voices. So,
all right.
Do we have anyone that we need to shout out to before we get started on this today, Trey?
Oh, no. Because, no. Not this week. But definitely check out Punchboard Media. That's our network. There's lots of great podcasts there. So I'm sure you can find something you like. They have comedy shows. They have board game shows. They have RPG shows. So check them out.
Yeah. And us. They also have us.
Yeah. All right, so today on Eternally Bored, we are discussing dating in the board game community. We're going to discuss different situations that might arise when you're dating in the community. We'll talk about different facets of dating in the community, and we'll talk about appropriate and inappropriate behavior that we have witnessed or experienced. And we'll also list our top 3 games to play on a date. So without further ado, our topic du jour, start with how important is it that your partner be into gaming? There's going to be a wide variety of opinions of this. There's, I've talked to people who are like, it doesn't matter at all because, your partner doesn't have to share your hobbies and whatnot. And then there's others that are like, gaming is such an important part of my life that I want my partner to share in it with me so that we can game together, and that could be like one of our main activities. So we'll start with our guest. Lisa, where do you fall down on this spectrum?
I think it's very important. So there are 2 things that make a good relationship, right? Well, not only 2 things, but 2 very big things, right?
Okay.
So one is communication, which I think we could probably all agree on. And the other thing that I feel is really important is understanding each other. And that's where, this is why I think it's important for your partner to also be a gamer. If you love gaming, it's important because, first of all, it's a common interest, right? And I feel like a common interest builds an understanding for each other. For example,
just hypothetically speaking.
For example,
okay.
I would need someone that would understand after I've bought 20 new games. So,
oh, yeah, just 20, huh? Okay.
well, I mean, in say
we call this BGG Con. So
week,
after BGG Con,
a week or 2
okay.
weeks, I mean, if I tell this to a person that's a non-gamer, they're either going to think I'm some sort of freak, or, well, I don't think weird is the right answer, but definitely wow.
Obsessed.
Okay. Obsessed, yes.
Yeah.
Which, can come off the wrong way on a lot of people who, again, we go back to understanding, right? Understanding each other. And if you don't understand each other's reasonings or actions, then it's kind of doomed.
I understand it. It's one thing to get judged by other gamers, because getting judged by other gamers just means, yeah, I remember when I did that. But they all have that same experience. Right. Getting judged by your partner who doesn't do it, it's like, I just don't want to deal with that level of, you trying to either manage my money, or even if I have a lot of money, just trying to mitigate my life or my hobbies.
Right.
So.
Yeah. It's obviously not specific to board games. Like, if you're really into cars and you just buy a new car without consulting your partner, or your partner doesn't understand your fascination with cars, that's probably going to be a conflict.
Yes.
So,
exactly.
Board games is like anything else. I mean, I've seen so many threads on Facebook and BGG about, how do I, get my partner to agree to let me buy, 10 more games or whatever. Like, so many threads. So this is clearly a common issue with gamers. And I would say especially with gamers who are partners with non-gamers, because I feel like, obviously, if your partner is also a gamer, they would probably be more understanding of you spending all this money on cardboard. Whereas someone who's not a gamer is going to be like, do you really need to, spend all this money? We could go on a vacation. We could, do whatever else. So I think having that common interest is definitely going to be helpful.
Yeah, and I think so. Common interest, builds that understanding, but it also creates an excitement, right, for like new games or events, conventions. So it creates this good excitement together. It also encourages sharing of ideas and strategies when playing different games. Again, something that non-gamers would not understand. And obviously it encourages more time together, right? Again, and it's something that only gamers would understand. Like you wake up, say Sunday morning, you're like, oh, I want to play a game. Whereas like maybe a non-gamer would be like, what? I just want to go to brunch and,
why not
have
both?
or do both, right?
Let's have brunch while we play Gloomhaven.
Okay, so that leads into the whole sacrifice part, right? So a lot of people nowadays don't have time to do everything. So you have to make decisions and be like, well, we only have time to, go to a movie or play a game, right? Which I like both, honestly. But I mean, if both of you are gamers and you both love it and you both understand each other, then it's not, you don't feel like you're sacrificing a whole lot of,
You can play like a shorter game and still go to the movie.
Exactly.
If the game runs over, you can just pick back up, or just forget the movie altogether because it can happen. There's more understanding.
It's so much easier. I think the communication is much smoother and much easier. You don't have to deal with complications and just negative.
Yeah. See,
feelings.
I'm usually on the other end of the perspective where I've never dated a woman who was actually all into board games. Even my fiance now is not all into board games.
She's into video games. It's close enough.
Right, exactly. So she is.
Yeah, she's a gamer.
She's a huge Warcraft player, and MMORPG player. And one of our other friends, guests of the show, Eric, also has a wife who is similarly a huge MMORPG player. So, those.
I think they mainly play League now.
They mainly play League, but they're actually they're at BlizzCon this weekend.
Yeah. Well, they're big Overwatch players too.
And they're big Overwatch players. So they do play a lot of video games together. They don't play as many board games together, but because she's so into video games, she understands the time that's spent with him playing board games. And, me and my fiance, we're all on the opposite end. It's like, she understands, okay, well, while you go out and play board games for hours, I'll stay at home and play our MMORPGs.
But you're still both gamers.
Right, and we're both gamers. We just don't game together, but we do devote
Yeah,
a certain amount
surprising
of time.
she's never converted you to WoW. Like, that'd be a good activity for y'all to do while she's out of town.
I just...
Has she tried?
No, I've tried to... I bought a second PS4 for her to play more PS4 games online with me.
Oh,
because,
nice.
I'm always playing like Gwent or God of War or Spider-Man or some other really big, long video games when I'm not doing a board game. So, and what about yourself, Trey? Where do you fall?
So I used to not care, but I feel like as I've gotten older and decided like what I want in a partner more, I feel like as I've gotten older, my taste or my list of desirable qualities has only grown, which probably just means I'm going to be single forever. But like having someone who's into board games has moved like closer to the top of the list because I feel like I do want someone who's like a second player who's always around, right? Because that is just great. Like I've had situations where I've had friends who are like always up for gaming. They come over and play 2-player games all the time. Me and Elisa play a lot of 2-player games, which is great. So I think like having a partner who's super into gaming is just like awesome. So I'm not saying it's a requirement, but it's definitely like inching its way closer to the top of my list of desirable qualities. So not at requirement point yet, but I think it might be one day. Who knows? But it's definitely something I used to not care about at all. I'm just like, oh, we'll have different interests. It'll be fine. Mm-hmm. But as I've gotten more into gaming, I go to more conventions now. I prioritize having my Sunday game days a lot more than I used to.
God, I remember those days.
Yeah, I used to host like Wednesday night gaming for a long time, and then I stopped. And then there were several years where I just didn't, and I would just game occasionally. But now it's like almost every Sunday I host gaming, and it's like one of the priorities of my life. So
yeah. And it used to be that Sunday gaming would be canceled for Sunday dating, and it never happens anymore.
No.
But
I do not. I've never canceled game days for dates anymore.
However,
I
it
used
was
to.
quite a couple.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, it leads into our next question. So, what experience have you had in terms of dating and gaming?
I guess I'm starting. Fine.
After you, I mean, we'll do it in reverse order. We're doing a snake draft here on questions.
Wow.
So.
All right. So I have a wide variety of experiences. I haven't dated many women who are totally against gaming. I've dated women that had very little interest, and they would occasionally like play a quick 2-player game with me. But as far as like women who are like outright against it, not really very many, because that probably just wouldn't work. I do
remember one.
Who is that?
That would be the one you proposed to.
Oh. No, she played games with us a few times.
No, Trey. She played to get you to propose to her, and then that was the end of that.
That is false. We played at our condo in Sugarland. So she played occasionally, but yeah, she was not really into gaming, and she did not really respect my desire for gaming at all. So that was problematic.
And if she sees this podcast, we're toast. But hey, what's happening?
I've also dated women who are super into gaming, and that's it's always a nice bonus. It's not a requirement, but I think it's helpful, to have compatible lifestyles, and just to have someone who understands your hobby. Like, even the most understanding person, if they're not also into the hobby, then it could cause problems. But having someone who also shares the hobby is just very helpful. So.
But I thought we were talking about actual experience. What actual experience have you had in dating and gaming in the hobby, Elisa?
Oh, you're asking me now?
Yeah.
Wow. So you want the whole story?
I'm the guest of honor. Honor us with whatever you wish.
Well,
Just some of
okay,
it.
So I was introduced to this guy for strictly business networking purposes, right? And I didn't realize I tend to be very oblivious to a lot of signals and hints that guys give me, and so
Do you can't see their yes signals? Do they get yes signals from you?
no, they don't,
Okay.
because I'm oblivious, so I don't realize what's happening.
Okay.
Right? And especially if I'm focusing on a purely business networking kind of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not thinking about, anything outside of that. So, but what I did notice was this guy kept texting me. Like, he texted me more frequently than anybody else would, right? When you're communicating with someone about jobs or, about careers and things like that. So I was like, oh, okay, he's just a nice guy, right? I mean, this is how I read it. And then all of a sudden he knew that that I love gaming, and apparently he really, really likes me, right? He was really into me, and I didn't realize this, but he sent me a message that I think was he did it in a very intelligent way, because he didn't want me to kind of freak out and be like, oh my god, he's asking me out on a date kind of thing, but it was clearly a date. But
Did
the
it
way
involve Gloomhaven?
No.
Okay.
Okay, so let me go back. He's
Okay.
not a gamer,
All right.
right? He's not a gamer, but we both have the same career. We both are in the same field. So anyway, he sends me a message saying, oh, he's heard of this place. He looked online. He found this place called Tea and Victory, which is a local gaming cafe.
Yes.
Right, which I've been to quite a few times, and it's fun, and I've gone there to game with a bunch of friends, right? A lot of them being just guys, just me and another guy, and again, it's not a dating thing. It was just as friends we're gaming there.
At least on your end.
Yeah. And
Well,
we
no.
also-
I mean,
Yeah, exactly. And we also have we have a personal friend of the show who worked there for a while, and you were there so much you
Yes.
made a number of friends with the staff.
Well, okay,
because
yes.
you would open and close with them, right?
yeah. So I mean, at least half the workers there know me, right? Anyway, so So he sends me this message saying like, oh, I saw online about this place, Team Victory. I really want to check it out. Again, he's not a gamer, right? Obviously making an effort to to get my interest. And so anyway, he's like, I really want to check it out. Would you like to join me, kind of thing, right? So again, not do you want to go out with me? It was more like, I really want to check this place out. Will you come with me and teach me how to play some of these games? Is what he was asking me in this message. I was like, well, I'm not going to turn down someone, I mean, I'm always, even at our meetups, I'm always, if someone asks me how to play this game, well, I'll show them how to play the game.
And if they ask you to come to one of your favorite places, you're not going to tell
I'm
them.
not gonna, exactly. I have fun, and it has great food and, great drinks and a lot of games, and I tend to bring my own games there.
Right.
So, I was like, it could be fun to do that. And so I was like, sure. So we ended up going there. I told Charles here that I was going on a date, because it was obviously a date. And Charles kind of teased me a little bit, saying, I'm going to call our friend that works at Team Victory and let him know to check out this guy. And not only that, Charles also kind of teased me and saying, I'm going to show up and, to check out this guy and see what he looks like. Well, I thought it was just, well, I was like, I don't think Charles is going to do that. So anyway, we get there and, okay, so mistake number 1, never do this.
Never.
Don't go to a place, if you're going on a date, don't go to a place where
everybody knows
you.
Everybody knows your
exactly.
name.
So.
Oh wait, we're gonna cover our track. Stop.
Okay.
We're sorry, YouTube. Don't get us.
Just leave out the 10 seconds. I forgot about this before. I don't need any more messages after the karaoke part. Anyways, continuing.
So anyway, he got there earlier than I did. He wanted to see what the place was like, of course. He was being a good date, right? I mean, he'd never been there before. He knew I'd been there, so he came there earlier. So when I arrived, I opened the door, and again, all these people know me, so half the workers are like, "Hey, how are you? Ooh, what did you bring? What games did you bring today?" And he sees this, and he's probably like, uh-oh.
Yes.
What have I done? So anyway, and of course our friend was working at that time as well.
His wife showed up. And...
Whoa, hold on, there's more to
there's
this,
more
right?
to it. Okay.
There's more to it. So, okay, mistake number 2. He's not a gamer. Don't choose a heavy game to play with a non-gamer. But this was, okay, so,
But maybe something like that's co-op that everyone could play.
Okay, so this is where, it wasn't completely my fault.
Like Hanabi, right?
So,
what game did you choose?
I chose Spirit Island because it's a...
Lord.
Well, okay, hold on a second. Hold on. It's this co-op game, and I had never played it before, and I'd been wanting to play it for a long time, right? I'd had this game for a long time, and I had never played it, and I was like, I really want to play it, and I had read the rules and pretty much figured out how to play it, and I was like, well, he's not a gamer, and I've never played this game before, so we'll be learning together, kind of thing, right? Plus it's a co-op. So I thought, it's not that bad of an idea. And plus we're at Team Victory, where a lot of the workers know how to play all the games, and they could easily help us, right, if we had any questions, which happened, right? And so one of the workers came over and showed us, how to set up the game. Well, I set up the game, actually, and they showed us, generally an overview of how to play, which really helped. I started feeling bad for him because...
You explained the rules?
Well, yeah, I did. But,
and he
again,
gave you the sheep and the deer and headlights look?
It's a little heavy of a game to
It's
start out with a non-gamer.
Yeah.
But he didn't do that bad. But here's my frustration, and this is just me personally, because I tend to, whenever I do something, I am like, focus, laser beam focus, right? Well, because I really want to I want to understand how to play the game so I can actually play it well.
Mm-hmm.
And some games are, very complex, and that's really difficult to do. But Spirit Island, you can kind of grasp on to the general concept of it, and you can actually, really understand the game.
Right.
So I'm, taking my turn, and I'm trying to figure out what to do. And here he is trying to make typical dating conversation.
Oh God.
And I'm just like,
Wow.
and I felt like all of a sudden I'm mean, like, oh my God, okay, Elisa, stop throwing daggers with your eyes.
You have a really pretty smile when you're concentrating.
She's like, I don't care about your favorite movie. I'm trying to make this decision.
Yeah, it was just like, oh my God, no,
Oh,
just
Lord.
let me. Ooh, don't do that, like. But that's me.
Yeah.
Not everybody's like that. Some
gotta
people
know
are
your
very
audience.
happy to break their conversation and be like, oh, well, my favorite color is blah, 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 or I like to do
The
this.
Spirit Island is maybe not a social game.
No, it's not. Again, so...
It's a social game for people who want to kill themselves in a co-op.
Well, we did
a good
win.
game,
We
yeah.
did win the game.
Oh, good.
Okay, so we okay. Anyway, so moving on, we won the game. So we did really well, in my opinion, for not having played and him being a non-gamer. Well, our friend's wife,
Abby, friend of the show.
She's been on here a
walks
few times.
in to the cafe, and let me just say, she never goes there. I mean, it was just really unusual for her to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And she, of course, goes over to her husband, Jeffrey, sorry, and he, he sees that we just finished Spirit Island, and we were pulling out Pandemic.
And he puts his wife in your capable.
And so he tells Abby, oh, Elisa just finished Spirit Island over there, and they're about to start Pandemic. Why don't you go and join them, right? So here's the thing. I should mention, I didn't feel any sparks with this guy, right? And obviously,
You think he picked up on that, and that's why he asked Abby to go play?
Yes. So obviously, no one else that was working there or knew me thought this was a date.
Right.
Right? Unlike my date, who was so into me and felt like, no, this is a date, and I'm going to do everything in my power to,
And I think
cast
Jeffrey.
a spell on her. And
Yeah, and Jeffrey must have noticed because I think I had told him that you were coming with a date. I think I had texted him just so he'd give me a lookout.
Oh, I don't think he
No.
knew, because
Oh, actually, no,
I
he
did
did
talk
know.
to him
He did
after.
know. Yeah, he did
He
know.
had no idea. So,
He knew in the middle, but that's only because I told him.
okay.
So.
So anyway, Abby comes, so actually, right about that moment when, Jeffrey tells Abby to come over, Abby and I make eye contact with each other, and I was like, oh, hi, and we wave to each other, and she comes right over, and I'm like, hi, Abby, and I was like, first thing out of my mouth, want to join us?
That's great.
Did Abby
And I
know?
just-
Did
it
Abby
just-
know? Could she tell? She's
No,
pretty.
she had
knows
no
I did.
idea it was a date. She
Okay.
would never have,
Okay.
right?
Savage.
Unless I had...
Unless you invited her.
I'm not that kind of girl that plans ahead of time. Like, if I, if will you bail me out if something terrible is happening? I don't do that sort of thing. So
Fatality.
she had
But it worked
she
out.
had no idea, and it just came out of my mouth like, you want to join us, 100% natural. I completely forgot. Well, okay,
Usually when
forgot
people
is
are
the wrong
driving,
word. I wasn't.
Yeah, drowning people do you would just yell out for help. Help!
Oh my god. So, and of course she's like, oh sure, yes, she's like, I haven't played Pandemic in forever, da da da. So she was actually pretty happy to join us.
Mm-hmm.
So she's, we're playing, and I am sure, I think I caught an expression from my dates. I'm pretty sure he had this look on his face like, oh my god, what is happening, kind of thing. But I just kind of
Glossed
I
it.
was like, well, anyway, so we played, and because, Abby's husband works there, we played well past closing time, and I think I can't remember what we played, Century Spice Road or something after that, and we just kept gaming well
That's
into
good.
the evening, and then finally we left.
Yeah, I remember I showed up somewhere.
Oh,
in the
I'm
middle.
sorry.
Yeah,
Yes,
no,
and
it's
then
fine.
and then so I got my back to the window, and Abby is to my left, and all of a sudden Abby's waving at the window. I turn around and I'm like, oh my God, there's Charles with tuxedo, staring into the window.
I lifted tuxedo up.
Yeah,
because,
you did. I was like, I saw this dog in the window with
Podcast
Charles.
mascot.
Podcast mascot. Yeah.
I know.
As our podcast knows, tuxedo will get in the middle of anything and disturb.
So I just, I mean, I felt bad for my date because I'm sure at that point he was just like, oh my God, what have I done? Like, why did I choose to come here? What is going on? Like, this is totally out of my control. Everything that's happening, can we like backtrack and undo all of this?
Yeah.
Anyway, Charles did not come into the cafe, thankfully, because it would have been really...
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I probably would have invited Charles to play as well. But
No.
anyway, so anyway, we closed the cafe, and he walks me to my car, and he to put it simply, he flat out says, "I just want to put on the table that I'm really into you." I mean, it was just almost like I'm not sure if you knew this was a date kind of thing because you invited your friend, and you know what I mean? Like I that's what I think. So he just was like, I want to make it clear that I really, really like you, and I mean, he was like almost pleading, like,
yeah, I like you. I met a bunch of your friends. They're pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, let me into your
So-
life.
and then he was like, and then he asked me, and I never lie, ever, but he asked me if I was dating anyone, and I said yes, because I feel terrible, right? Because again, I didn't
I
feel...
never lie, except when I do.
No,
I felt terrible. I
she
was
was casually dating people, right? Yeah, there you go. That's the truth.
I'm okay. Let's just say I'm open to dating people. I wasn't dating anyone at that time.
It's a nice letdown. I mean, like I feel like it's better than a stone cold rejection.
Yeah, I see.
Honestly.
I feel so bad being like, no, I don't want to date you.
Yeah.
I
mean, that might have been the more honest
I don't
answer,
think I
but
ever have said that.
it's an easier letdown to be like, oh no, this person is already interested in someone else. Like
Yeah.
I to me, I mean, I obviously want people to be honest all the time, but
Yeah.
in that particular case, it can be pretty soul crushing when the person you're really into is just like, no, not into you.
Yeah.
But if they're already seeing someone, then that's less of a crushing blow.
Yes,
So.
and that's the thing, because I could tell he was so into me.
Yeah.
It would have just crushed him if I was like, no.
All right.
So anyway,
Yeah, we have to get through these topics because we've
Okay.
got like 20 minutes left. Appropriate ways to date in the community. This guy actually did a lot of things right, I feel. Like, he picked an appropriate public location. He expressed interest in, like, gaming versus, like, let me just, like, try to charm you, he, like, made it very comfortable, I feel like, for Elisa. Probably made it very uncomfortable for himself. But he did a lot of things to make Elisa comfortable and communicated and things like that. So I think he actually did a lot of things right.
And at the end, he was upfront
Yeah.
about what he was trying to do. So that's always a plus.
Yeah. So communication, very important. You obviously there's actually a big thread about this on Board Game Geek about like inviting women over to your place to game on like a first date, and that's even if you know them, probably not the best way to do it.
Especially for the hobby, it's a way to turn them off permanently.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
all
If they're
of
on the fence about you, that could definitely push them into, okay, this guy's just trying to sleep with me or something. So I would definitely like public meetup for the first date, get to know them kind of thing. Even if like y'all have a previously established friendship, it also probably lets them know that this is a date. Whereas like if you just invite them over to your friend to play games, they might not think that you're romantically interested. But if you're like, let's go out together to a place to do this activity, just the two of us. So I think that actually works in your favor, like setting it aside from a platonic gaming thing versus like an actual date. So that would be, I think, appropriate behavior as well. Is there any other things that you think are appropriate for dating in the board game community that we have not mentioned?
Please pay attention to the signals. If the signal is no, do what this guy did. Make your immediate plea. Do not hang around trying to guess. Just see where you're at, and from that point on, please, if they say no, man or woman, leave them. Don't leave them. Leave them alone from a romantic sense. You can still play some games with them, but leave them alone romantically.
Great. Yeah. Take no for an answer. This is just like not just in the gaming community, but like men especially need to learn this. Like, don't keep pursuing someone when they've already made it clear they are not interested. Yeah,
like President Trump says, it's hard for white men in America. So do not make it more difficult on yourself.
Oh Lord.
But also, kind of along what you just said, don't keep texting someone in a non-relationship way in hopes that you'll like suddenly get a yes from them. You know what I mean? Like, you can be friends, you know, obviously be friends, but don't keep pursuing if you already know the answer is no.
Exactly.
Right?
Right. That's a great segue into inappropriate things. So, you know, take a hint, right? Don't be like shady about it. Like, you know, just like be upfront, I guess. Yeah. Open communication is always preferred to like, you know, trying to like, you know, be sleazy and like, you know, try to turn like, you know, sleazily turn a friendship into something romantic. And maybe like hanging around hoping to catch them when they're vulnerable or something like that. Like, just be honest, you know. Yeah. Like, I really like you, I'm very into you, and like, and then they can just make the decision. Like, do I want to also pursue this romantically?
Yeah. Please also do not mention a person's physical attractiveness at the gaming meetup more than once,
or not at all.
Preferably not at all. If something really catches your eye, maybe, but more than once. Not necessary. People can see attractive people. You could be an attractive male or female. No one needs to tell you more than once.
Oh yeah, those are always cringy. Like,
because it will make everyone
games
around you. Yeah.
And some guy's just like, wow, you're really hot, you know, like, or something like that. Like,
You've
wow.
got beautiful eyes and just stare at you.
Exactly.
All right, now take your turn.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something that you have to come up with. Like, if I'm at a table, you know, a lot of people will be uncomfortable. I'll actually verbally call you out about it from tables away if necessary, and I've done that in the past.
Good for you, Charles.
Though I'm more extroverted than most, but yes.
Charles is lawful good. Don't roll up into his gaming meetup trying to hit on the women that attend it.
Conversely, I do have a lot of women who attend my gaming meetup, so
yeah, and probably because of your behavior, keeping some of these guys in check. All right.
Oh, another one. So, a good way to approach a person at a meetup, right, is please go slow. Don't go so fast, and you don't know the person, you don't know even how they game, or if they're crazy or psycho or, you know, or weird. I mean, that's another thing, like, don't be the extreme weirdo at a meetup. I mean, there are some really weird people, but, you know.
Yeah. I mean, but some people, it's not like, it's just how they are. Like, I understand some people just have social anxiety, or like they're just socially awkward, but there's ways you can do that. Like, I would say if you are someone like that and you know you are like that, like, maybe have like a mutual friend, kind of like maybe, you know, ask the person you're interested in, you know, are they potentially interested in me too? That's one way you could do it without making things awkward, either publicly or by like sending a message that you are not 100% sure is going to be interpreted the right way. So having a mutual friend, I think, interested on your behalf might be a good suggestion for someone who's less comfortable in those kind of socially awkward situations, potentially socially awkward.
But definitely move slow, especially, I mean, you don't want to overwhelm anybody, especially if they're a new gamer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, let's get to dating games. So we just did our top 3 dating games, like games to play on a date. Just 2 quick honorable mentions from me. Gloomhaven, just because it's a great 2-player game, and I also think it's good if you're interested in someone who comes from a D&D background, but maybe they don't have a lot of tabletop gaming experience. Like, this could be a hook, right? You could be like, oh, it's kind of like D&D, but just the combat and not so much the role-playing. But, you know, it's similar. Like, we're in a dungeon fighting. There's cool miniatures. So I think Gloomhaven is a good entry point for those types. And then Lost Cities is also a really good 2-player heads-up game that's very light, very easy to explain, but interesting to play. So check those out.
My honorable mention is a little bit more adult. It's called Consentical.
Oh God.
It's
Consentical is not officially endorsed by the Eternally Bored podcast or Punchboard Media.
yes. But anyways, sometimes for good conversation topics, the adventures of a hermaphrodite human and a something alien can be interesting. At least you'll have something to talk about with the art.
I guess it's about consent, so that's good. Is it about consent? I don't know.
It's a love story about consenting with a technical person. Yes.
Once again, Consentical is not officially endorsed by Eternally Bored or the Punchboard Media podcast. Thank you, Charles. Did you have any honorable mentions? No,
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
One of them is Codenames, which I've
Oh,
only
that's
played.
good.
I've only
Well,
played.
Codenames Duet.
Yes, I've only played it once. I'm not very good at it. I have lots of room to improve on it, but I think it's a good data game. The other one I put is Escape the Curse of the Temple because I actually enjoy that. I'm not into dice rolling games, but that one is super fun. And it's a co-op. You work together to kind of escape the curse of the temple. So it's fun.
All right, very good. All right, so top 3, I'll give my number 3, and these are not necessarily my favorite games. Well, one of them is, but these are just games that I've had a lot of success with in a one-on-one date type setting. Because, well, 2 of them, my number 3 and my number 2, are very simple games, and so they're very good to introduce to non-gamers. And I've just had like pretty much 100% success rate in people liking these games, even if they don't like games. So if you're dating someone and you don't know how they feel about gaming, or even if they are a gamer, they will probably enjoy it. So my number 3 is Hanabi, and I don't play Hanabi anymore except one-on-one.
I'm so glad you brought it up.
Because my group, they are just mean when it comes to Hanabi.
What mean? No.
No, they're mean.
We're not mean. We just
False.
expect you to be perfect. There's a difference.
Anyway,
Expectations are dangerous.
I've won with the rainbow tiles, and then I retired from Hanabi officially, except on a date. I will play Hanabi on a date because it's a super fun game to play on a date, and you just laugh at your mistakes. And yeah,
One
it's
with the
just
rainbow
fun.
tiles? Or
Yeah.
you got a perfect score?
We got a perfect score with the rainbow. Yeah, 100% success rate with the rainbow tiles once, and I'm never playing it again,
I've had-
except on a date.
Yeah. Our group also has 2 perfect 30-point scores with Highlander rainbow tiles as well.
Yeah, I'm not gonna
That's
do
how
that.
we play. Anyways, continue. Your number 3?
That was
My number 3 is actually, you already mentioned it, Gloomhaven. Because as I mentioned before, I will not date a non-gamer, and so Gloomhaven, I love Gloomhaven because it's a co-op game. I love thematic games, and I like quest games, and it's a campaign, and not everybody likes Gloomhaven, but or those kind of games, but it's fun. It's fun to play a 2-player scenario.
And Gloomhaven is a pretty heavy game. That's why I suggested it for someone from a D&D background, if you're interested in. I think it's good, or that they already have heavy gaming experience. But I would not introduce Gloomhaven to someone who has no gaming background.
And my number 3 is actually Can't Stop. Because
Oh.
really, what you want them to do is all in the game name. And you just keep on having them roll, for your life. But Can't Stop's an easy game to teach. People can beat you off, fresh people who've never played the game before can beat you because of the mitigated dice rolling. If they are hot rolling, then a lot of gamblers understand the game pretty well. And then it does have advanced strategy, to come around when you're not. And you can explain some of it, and they can either listen to you or not because it can't stop. My number 2, coming back the other way, is actually going to be, one of my favorites, Marvel Legendary.
Oh, God.
Basically, if they're coming from like a Magic background or something like that, it's a co-op. It has Marvel superheroes in it. They can just choose who they want to play with. It does have a long setup time, but you can talk to them during that time.
We can talk to them.
And, you can just go ahead and put up the cards together, and maybe if you hit it off, you can go play another game after you lost, you can also win, depending on how you set it up.
You can play a good game after you play that game.
Fun. Your number 2, Elise?
Wow. My number 2 is Hanabi, which Trey already brought up. I think it's a great 2-player game, actually. It's very difficult, but it's fun. It's fun to play. I like challenges, so...
Excellent. My number 2 is a pretty famous 1v1 game. It's pretty highly rated on Board Game Geek. It is super accessible. It is has a cute theme that draws most people in, and it builds on previous gaming experience that pretty much everyone has, which is Tetris. So my number 2 is Patchwork by Uwe Rosenberg. It is a very simple polyomino game. Did I say that? No, I never say that word right. Anyway, the Tetris shapes, right?
Yeah.
You're building a quilt with the Tetris shapes, and basically you're just going around the board, selecting different Tetris shapes to put in. You use buttons to pay for them. It's just like an in-game currency, but it's a very simple system. And I've had a ton of success with both gamers and non-gamers with Patchwork. So
plus, if they like it, there are literally 3 more games from the same designer.
4.
No, 4 total. 4
Actually,
total.
5.
5 now.
If you include Feast for Odin, 5.
Yeah, there's 5 other games
by the same
from
designer
with the same theme at all the different levels.
And then there's also Baron Park by a different designer, and then there's also Fits, which is an older game, also using the Tetris pieces. So if you like the Tetris pieces, there's lots of different games that they can play. Oh, and Blocus too. I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
My number 1, switching gears from accessible to inaccessible, is Star Wars Rebellion, which is an amazing 2-player game. And it's very long, so you're looking at a 6-hour date, right? If you can get your partner to agree to this date, you're in it for at least 6 hours. And, you could probably play it fast and get it in like 4 hours if you're really rushing. But if you're having a date, you're probably not rushing. You're probably enjoying your time together.
Yeah. Much more fun than watching episodes 1, 2, and 3 together.
Hey, I like episode 3 a lot, but 1 and 2, sure. And I would only recommend this with someone who's into Star Wars, though. The one time that this failed, I played this with someone who was not into Star Wars, so like they couldn't get into the theme, and like this is a very, very thematic game. So even though this person was actually a gamer, and a heavy gamer at that, but because they weren't connected to the theme, they didn't enjoy the game as much as they might have otherwise. So I would recommend this if you're interested in someone who's into Star Wars, and it's a really great 2-player experience in that situation.
Okay, my number 1 is The Game or The Mind.
Ooh.
I like both of them, actually. They're very difficult to play. I actually haven't played them a whole lot. So The Game, I've probably played 3 or 4 times, and won twice, actually. But it's super fun.
That's still a good rate. The game is very hard.
It's super fun to play. And I think it's a great date game, actually. Yeah, it's really, really fun.
Cool. Number 1.
My number 1. I did have one more honorable mention. Fog of Love.
I haven't played that. You like it?
I played it with the demo last year, and I thought it was a very interesting type of game, especially, sort of designed for a 2-player date game.
Yeah.
So it's something that's on my list to play. More up, but I've only played a bit of it. But my number 1 is actually Codenames Duet mixed with Deep Undercover.
Oh god.
So deep, so you get a few words. Hey, they sell Deep Undercover at Target right next to Cards Against Humanity.
Target, if you want to send us a check for your
yes.
mention.
So basically, the best games of Codenames Duet do, they bring up a couple of associations. And I'm not saying put all the Deep Undercover cards in, because it makes for not as great a game, but doing a nice mix will bring you up to things. Plus, you'll get some very interesting clues that might teach you something about your partner, and you can talk about it and laugh about it, and
we suggested
maybe even try it.
Date games. Charles suggested date games.
I mean, yes, it was date games.
Oh Lord! All right.
All these games will work though for the
Yeah,
purposes of building up, a good way to talk with your partner.
Excellent. All right. Excellent list. So we just have one more thing, which is to go through the games we've been playing recently. I think we should let Elisa go through her list because we don't know when she's going to be back. And we'll save Charles's list, which I'm sure will be extremely long, for the next episode. Because we also have BGG in between now and that recording. Before I do that, though, I do have one game, which we actually play together, so you can comment on it as well. The Reckoners, which is a co-op dice rolling game.
Based on Brandon Sanderson's excellent literary series.
Oh, yeah, you read it?
I have read it twice.
Oh,
yes.
wow.
So,
excellent. Yeah, it's a I would say a light co-op game. It's or medium light. It's there's a little bit to it. It's the most overproduced game of all time. It is a beautiful production, but also they made a lot of really unnecessary upgrades. Like the game could literally cost half the price and be the same game, but because they like improved the components so much, the game retails for like $80 or $100 or something crazy.
Yeah, it's about 100.
It's insane.
It's like a Kickstarter version.
Yeah.
The retail, there's a regular retail that's
For
like
that
50.
reason, I would never get it because if I'm gonna spend $100 on a game, I want it to be like a 3-hour heavy game. This is not. This is like an hour at best. And I thought it was very good. The mechanics are solid. The only problem is, like, I'm not super into co-op games, so I would much rather be playing Gloomhaven or Spirit Island because I also prefer heavy games. But, it's a good game, I would say.
So what's the mechanics of it overall?
It's like dice selection with Yahtzee mechanic, because, like, apparently every dice rolling game has to use a Yahtzee mechanic. So you get 2 rerolls, and you roll the dice, and they do different actions, and every character has their own particular dice that are better than everyone else's. So you just kind of cooperate, talk to your teammates, and see, like, it's kind of like triage, right? You're like, where is the help needed? And you just kind of have that discussion and kind of figure out who do we need to attack, what areas do we need to protect, that kind of thing.
Okay.
I think there's more communication involved in this co-op game.
Okay.
Because you do have to, the more players there are, I can't remember what the max.
6.
Okay,
6
yeah.
is
So the
max.
more players there are, the more you have to look around at everyone's, at all the boards and figure out, okay, what's needed.
Right.
And so if you're just busy rolling your dice and not communicating with anyone, then
Because you're basically
Not really.
you're playing sort of like a tower defense against superhero attacks, correct?
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, you're getting. It's just like Pandemic or any other, or Spirit Island or anything. Like the board is getting invaded, right, by bad stuff. Bad stuff's happening. You're losing in various ways. Really, there's only one way to lose. They attack your life meter, which is the population of the city.
the epics.
So yeah, you need to just prevent that by killing them, and eventually you have to wear down the big bad and kill him.
Steelheart.
Yeah. So yeah. Oh, one more actual joint entry. We finished our Detective: A Modern Board Game campaign. Elisa can talk about her impressions, but I'll mention mine briefly in that.
Let her talk about hers
No, you
first.
can go first. It's
Go for it. All right,
Go
fine.
Go for it.
Ladies
She is
first.
also going to. So I thought it was a really good game. Like mechanically, it's very solid, which I think I said last time. However, we all felt, well, most of us felt that the campaign was very anticlimactic because the last case was so much easier than the other. Like we had figured out 90% of what had happened in the overall case once we got to the end, and then like we just needed like one more clue, and it wasn't like a hard clue to figure out. They like literally were like throwing clues on you in the last case, and it was like stuff we had already figured out, so we would have figured it out in the last case anyway. So it was just like very like anticlimactic because it's like they already told us all this in previous cases, and now they're just making it super obvious in case we missed the clues from the previous cases. I know why they did this though, because they want people to be
Word of mouth
satisfied.
satisfaction.
Yeah, they want people to be like, we solved the case, right? If a lot of people didn't solve the case, then they would be disappointed with their experience. Like, who wants to play 5 cases of a game and then get to the end of the campaign and lose?
I don't know. The Sherlock Holmes people seem to like it. But whatever. So
Right.
be it.
So I understand, but what I'm hoping is future expansions will have tier difficulty levels where you can get like harder questions at the end of cases, because the questions were just super easy. We only missed one question in all 5 cases, and we really had like no trouble. But our scores were still just medium because like they have this weird mechanic where you only get points when you find the evidence, but it's totally arbitrary whether or not you find the evidence. So the game has a lot of problems, but if you like Sherlock Holmes, check it out.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it was very well done. I love mystery games. I'm really into that. I also like Sherlock Holmes.
Mm-hmm.
I think the difference between this one and Sherlock Holmes, well, the obvious difference is with Detective, we had 5 cases that were all connected together, whereas Sherlock Holmes, yeah, you don't solve all the cases because it's just a single case, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's that satisfaction of, well, I've solved some of the cases in Sherlock Holmes, but not all of them. Whereas, like Trey mentioned, it's 5 connected cases, and if you don't solve it, then it's a huge bummer, right? So, yes, I agree on that. I think it was very well done. I think the expansions that eventually come out will probably be more difficult. I don't know what they plan to do with it. If maybe they're going to do single cases, which could be nice, and have varying levels of difficulty. But for sure, yes, they wanted everybody to win. So it was, whatever decision you make, whichever route you chose to go on, you would probably solve the case in different ways, right? You'd have different clues, but they made sure that you would solve the case. But I also think we had a really good group.
Yeah.
I mean,
she made the biggest mind map I've ever seen. Like, literally a whole wall filled with connected Post-its.
I mean, it's very unlikely that other people playing detective out there would be as good as us or at the same level or better.
That's what I like to hear. We're just a better group than your group.
Well, I mean, no.
But no, they are, because Abby, you...
I will say yes.
We have Emma.
I was very selective. I was very selective of this group, right? I didn't,
We have a genius puzzle solver, Emma, in our group. She, solves all the escape room games we play. She's just like, oh, this is how you solve this puzzle, and we're just like, okay, great.
Yeah, I purposely chose people that I felt would be really good with this sort of game, so.
And you killed it, yes.
Yeah, we did. We killed it.
Excellent. All right. So what other games have you played recently that you would like to discuss?
So a new one would be Concordia with the Salsa expansion. Very good game. I really enjoy it. I think it's fun. It's not extremely heavy. I would say it's kind of a medium game, but I'm not quite sure. Other people might think differently. But it's a well-done game, and I don't know. Have you played Salsa expansion?
No. I've only played base game Concordia, and I didn't like it that much, but I want to play it again with maybe some of the expansions, because I like games that can be expanded upon, like different maps, and I like variability. So I'd love to get into Concordia. My first experience just was not very interesting.
Yeah, I remember the base version too, because that's the one where you're selecting cards at the top in order to move around on the map on the bottom.
Yeah.
I felt that Salsa expansion kind of evened out the game more.
So you played it without, and then you played it with?
I played it, yes.
Okay.
So I've played it exactly twice, basically. The first time, I won the first time, and I went first. So I was kind of thinking, well, maybe that is how it works, right? But then, with the Salsa expansion, I went second, and the person that played first was in last place. So I realized, okay, that's not.
Did you win the second time too?
I was second place by 2 victory points. It was really close.
Nothing like a
It
win.
was very, very close.
Nothing like a win and a taste of salt to make you want to play
The salt expansion.
It was very close.
Exactly.
All right, what else you got? Oh, you already talked about the Divine.
Yeah, I think I can't remember if we talked about Root.
We talked about Root, I think, in the previous podcast.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we talked about it last time. But I think we're still on the fence. I really like Root, and I want to keep playing it, and I want to explore all the factions. I'm not sure it's a good game yet. We'll see.
Me too. I'm still undecided. Villainous is another one. Charles and I have both played it. I think it's very well done, actually. It's interesting. It's different.
It's well done, but it's not balanced. You might get rolled.
It's so the one I've played, Ursula, is really difficult to play. I mean, I think it's probably the worst one.
But they also
can't
say
win
it's
with Ursula.
Yeah, if things go your way, you'll roll, apparently. And if they do not, you will just sort of be sputtering around. But the one thing about the game is it has great production qualities.
Yes.
And, it's very expandable, asymmetrical game. They did a really good job with the different win conditions. And I think it shines. We've played it, I think 2 players is too low. And I think 6 players is too many. So I'm still trying to get the 3 to 4
player
Maybe 4.
Sweet spot like most games.
Yeah, I think it's going to be most. So. But basically, you haven't played it yet, but the basic mechanic is that you have a board that's usually filled with 4 actions. Ursula only has 3 at the beginning. And you select one, and you can attack. Other players have a deck of their heroes, so you're playing with the villains, and then there's a deck of heroes, and you get to attack other players with their heroes, and some of their heroes they need on the board to win with. So getting attacked is not necessarily bad for any particular hero. Actually, it's
for Ursula,
better if you attack Ursula, but the problem is when you attack someone, you block 2 of their action spaces. So if they don't have a way to get rid of them,
No, it's not. It's not good to attack Ursula. It's good to attack Captain Hook. I think.
Yeah.
Is that one?
well, anyway.
The one with Peter Pan.
Yeah, the one with Peter.
It's-
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Ursula, yeah, she gets.
Yeah. Ursula, I don't think you can win playing Ursula.
I think you can.
I want to see it happen, but.
But anyways, the game's pretty polarized. We've had people who absolutely hated the game and people who really liked it. So we need a few more plays.
All right, and lastly,
Deception, Murder in Hong Kong. I've
Mhm.
had a lot of fun with. I
yeah,
think you've
good game.
probably all played.
Yeah, I mean, I own this game. I would bring it more, but it's really hard to play in noisy places.
It is. It
it
is.
is.
oh, you should talk about Dominant Species because we haven't talked about that in a long time.
Ooh.
How did you feel about Dominant Species?
Well, okay, I've only played it that one time, but here's the thing. So I think it's a good game. I enjoy those kind of games. One thing I really didn't like about it was that a person can work really hard to do well in the game,
Mhm.
and at the very end of the game lose it all. I don't
Yes.
like that.
It is a vicious.
I don't
vicious
like
game.
that. I think everyone, it's very unbalanced in that
Yeah.
way, right? I don't think it should be allowed though. Somebody has worked really hard throughout the entire game to get, that many points, and then all of a sudden someone pulls one card and is like, okay, take that. And it's all like...
I'd like to see a remake, and they are remaking it actually.
Yeah, they are.
And it's only 4 players now, which is an interesting change to go from 6 to 4. I'm not sure what other mechanics are changing.
You instantly cross
do the thing.
pawns, so, yeah.
So that's a big change. But what I would really like, I feel like it would be a better game if it had hidden victory points, because it's very beat down the leader. Like if someone's ahead, they're just getting destroyed by everyone else. So it can be a very vicious game and not a very fun one when you're in the lead and you think you're going to win, and then everyone just gangs up on you, and you might not have actually even really been in the lead. Like someone might have had a secret plan they were working on, and then they were going to probably win anyway.
But part of being the leader in that game is to explain what other people are doing that you're trying to stay ahead of, because usually
no one ever believes you.
People sometimes they
the victory point the victory point track says otherwise.
I mean, the more you play, the more you can see some things that are happening. I mean,
so they're going to turn the new players against you is the problem.
Yeah, they might turn the new players against you, but you can still survive. I love Dominant Species, which is really weird, but
it is super weird. If you know Charles' taste in games, it is super weird.
But it's the whole fact that the game is. There's a lot of death in the game, but it's not really a straight up war game, because your territory might go. That's why you're supposed to spread out in the first place. You can see when something's about to not go your way, and you need to make accommodations for that. And as a first time player, it's going to be very hard, and you might just get caught in the path as well. I mean,
in the tundra.
I mean, the Tundra's fine. Tundra's a fine. You can win with the Tundra. Tundra's a great place to be.
Not at the very end. Not if you're winning and everybody puts you in the Tundra at the very end, then no, you're not going to win.
If you have enough dominance off the Tundra, you might score 60 points off of that thing.
Well,
As long as you plan to live in the Tundra, you can make it there. So you have to, instead of taking adaptation, you need to be able to put down food stores in the Tundra before they get taken up, so you have something to eat.
Different strategy, yeah.
It's a very specific
very,
Dominant
very
Species.
Sorry.
Conversation.
My fault. Dominant Species. Anyways.
I mean, don't you get just one victory point for Tundra?
No, you score the triangular scoring for Tundra.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So if you control 9 Tundra, I believe
That's right.
you'll score 56 points or something, or 45 points.
But again, very different strategy.
Yeah.
From
There's a lot of strategies in that game.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us for the dating episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe. We're on YouTube and Twitter at Eternally Bored, and our website is eternallybored.com. There's no underscore for either of them, and it's bored as in board games, of course. So until next time, we're eternally bored.
So you don't have to be.
Bye.